Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. So, uh, those who are watching me live, first of all, can you guys give me the confirmation that am I properly visible, clearly audible, or not? And I'll wait for a few minutes so that everyone will join. Those who wants to join the session live, and after few minutes we will start our session. Okay. I hope you already have seen from the thumbnail as well as from the headline itself that the today's objective is to continue our sequel part playlist, where in the very first part, if you remember, we have talked about mainly uh, how basically the MySQL workbench will be installed, how basically we will be able to create any new database, right? If it is not existing previously. Apart from this, we have also seen that how we can create any new table inside any specific databases, right? All these things I have already explored in the last session. We will try to cover up more on top of that. Basically we will see how basically we can insert new table inside, insert data inside the new table that we have created by the name of employees. And we'll look upon that, what is the problem with the schema that we have created at the very last time. So before we will move ahead, can you guys give me the confirmation, am I properly audible or not? Hi Prabhutwa, how are you? How is everyone doing? Can you give me the confirmation a bit fast that whether I am properly visible, clearly audible or not? So, meanwhile, I'm sharing my screen as well, and you can give me the confirmation for the screen as well. Okay. Hmm. Visible? Yeah, it's visible, right? So, basically, if you will be able to observe whatsoever things we are covering up in this SQL playlist part, everything is I'm storing in this particular episodes. Episode 1, we already have done 4 days ago, if you remember. Those who were not there with me in the last episode, please go and check it out. Again, it's in a sequence only. If you will miss any one of the video in between, you might face a trouble. So it's like a, you can say, end-to-end fledged project we will do, which requires this particular knowledge which I am covering up in every episode. Make sense? So today we are doing episode number 2, which is about retrieving data with the select statements. For that, if you remember, I am using something called as MySQL Workbench for the installation purpose. In the last session, I have told you how basically you can install this MySQL Workbench. And this is the part which we have covered up in the last session, if you remember. We have, seen this show command, show databases command to check it out, whatsoever databases we have, right? And after that, we created a new database by the name of Tech for All with Priya. We use that. Select command is basically to help which particular database we are in. Then we have created this table by the name of employees, where we will be having columns called as first name, last name, age, salary, and the location. And we have seen this disk of employee will give us the description of the table by the name of employee. If I'll just run this, you will be able to see this was the description of the table which we have created in our last class. Do you remember that? First name, last name, age, salary, and location. Every particular column has its own type. For example, first name, last name, and the location has a varchar type, whereas age and salary will be having an integer type. By default, because we have not insert anything constraint as such by the name of not null, so what is happening is by default it is yes, means you can put any value as null. We will discuss this today, that how basically this will impact our complete creation of the table and insertion of the table, and what we should do in order to avoid that particular issue. So shall we start the session, if everyone is with me? Thank you so much for the confirmation, Kiasuddin Jamal M. Can we start our today's session? Does everyone is ready? Please make sure you hit like button. Please make sure that you will share these episodes with each and every one, because I really want that these things will reach to as many people and without your support, again, it's not at all possible. So please make sure that you will support me in this part. Okay, shall we start now with the next important part? Let's try to see basically how we can insert any data inside a table. Very first thing. So we have created our table by the name of employees. And by the way, I'm starting everything from scratch. So if there is anyone who is not at all aware about what is SQL, how the things will happen, don't worry, you will be automatically in this playlist able to understand everything because we are starting from a very, very scratch. And we will make sure that we will go till the advanced part where we will be discussing about joins, window functions, whatever important topics we have in SQL, everything we will discuss here. And once you will be able to learn this SQL queries, no, you will observe that be it whatsoever domain with respect to data you are in, maybe data analyst, data scientist, data engineer, you will observe that in industry everyone is using SQL. This is something which is common for every particular domain. So when you are going for an interviews, definitely if you are in a data domain or if you want to enter into that, interviewer will definitely ask you the questions with respect to this particular part as well. Okay, so it's very important series which is going on, so please make sure that you will listen each and everything very actively. And I'm doing it without any charges. Just I require your focus, your attention, your time, and your support. That's it, right? So shall we move ahead now with respect to this part? Everyone ready? So what we can do is now we can try to first of all insert the data. Okay? We will try to insert our data uh, with respect to this employee table. So how basically the insertion will happen? We will say insert into what is the table name? My table name is employee. What are the values you want to insert? I want to insert first name, then last name, then age, then salary, and then the location. Let's say the first name is Priya, the last name is Bhatia, age is let's say 26, salary is let's say maybe 1 lakh, and location let's say is Bangalore. Okay? Bangalore. So basically what is happening is this is how basically we can do insertion of the employees. By the way, if you remember how this database we have created, I am working upon this website, right? If you know, everyone I hope is already aware now, we already have one website available, techforallwithpriya.com. So we are working on this website only as a real-time application, real-time example. Here, if you will be able to observe, what we are doing is now I am entering all those employees who are working with me as my team members, as the interns who are working with me, right? We want to feed the information of those people inside this database of Tech for All with Priya before we will extend with our discussion with respect to other tables that is required in this database. So this is the very first employee, Priya Bhatia. She is working in this particular current company. So basically, if I run this, you will be able to observe insert command is completely run. If I just want to show you how we can retrieve the records that we have inserted, you can simply select star from what is the table name? Table name is employee. So if I'll just select this particular command and if I'll just run this, you can see, right? I hope everyone can see my screen very clearly. Priya Bhatia, age 26, salary 1 lakh, location Bangalore, right? Everything I'm able to get here. So what I will do is similarly, I can insert more fields as well. Let's say as of now, because it's a very new thing which I have started last month itself. So here in this case, I am having only let's say 6 people who are currently working with me. One is Priya Bhatia herself. After that, let's say there is another name. Maybe I'll say Sumedha. Let's say Midha. Okay, her age is let's say 32, and let's say her salary is 50,000. Okay, she is working let's say via Gurugram as remote work. Then let's say we have another person which is Rashmi. Okay, and last name is Tawar, right? And her age is 30, salary is let's say 20,000, and she's again working from Bangalore. After that, let's say we will be having another person, let's say Shivam Mishra. Okay, age is let's say 28, salary he's taking as 10,000, working from let's say Noida. Okay, next employee, let's say we have is Ajay Bhatia, let's say age is 25, salary is 5,000. Okay, currently working from Mumbai. Okay, I'm manually writing any of the names here. Ankit, let's say, uh, last name is let's say Sangwan, age is let's say 34, and his salary is let's say 70,000, working from Bangalore. So what we have done is we have inserted the 6 employees which are currently working in the company of Tech for All with Priya. So what I will do is I'll just select this particular last 5, run this command. There is some trouble which we are facing somewhere. Let's try to see it. If there is issue, we will look into it. Yes, there is something wrong which we have done. Let's try to again run this. What is the issue? Insert into table name employee values. This. Done. What is the issue here? Done. Let me check this command. Okay. This one is fine. This one is also fine. Let's now run this. Perfect. So can you see that here we will be able to execute all the commands, and now we will be having how many number of employees? In total, we will be having 6 number of employees working in the company of Tech for All with Priya. Done. So far, so good. Now, Akhil has said one interesting thing here, that we need to specify the column name also, like the first name, last name also. Let's come to his point now. So this is the one way where we can simply do the insertion very easily, right? In this case, I have not defined specifically what is the first name, what is the last name, age, salary, and location. Automatically with this syntax, it will take automatically that okay, very first, field that we have is the first name, then last name, then age, then salary, and then the location. But let's say, I don't want to mention a first name. I'll skip that. I just want to mention the last name. For example, a new employee came into picture. 7th employee, I hired as an intern. Now, what happened is, he gave me the info of the last name, okay, age, salary, and location. And the values are, let's say, first name is not given, okay. Last name is, let's say, Bhatt. Age is, let's say, 29. Salary is, let's say, 50,000. And currently working in maybe Gurugram. What do you think? Will this command will run? So what I have done is, in this case, I have tried to, there are 2 ways. Either you can just mention in every, after writing the table name, every particular column name, and then you can fill the values. That command will also work. If let's say you want to miss any particular column value, for example, in this case, I don't want to fill first name. So you need to specify which particular values you want to fill. And that is what I have specified as Bhatt, 29, 50,000, Gurugram. So in this case, what do you think? Will this command will run properly? Let's try to run this. Can you see? This is working perfectly fine. Now again, I'll run this command, which will retrieve me the records. Can you see there is an issue with this command? Can you see? What is the issue? The first name itself is not there. Now, you only tell me that in practical real-time scenarios, is this feasible? That we have a table of employees, and in that employees, first name itself is missing. I think the first name is compulsory. Last name is compulsory to have for an employees, right? Age is compulsory. Salary is compulsory. Location is compulsory. Maybe middle name, we can take it as an optional, but remaining fields are something which we can't take it as a null. But in this case, for the very last record, what I have done is, I have taken it as null, which is wrong. Although it is not giving me an error because I have not defined any sort of constraint in my schema. That is the real trouble which I am facing here. Will you guys able to understand my point? What is happening here? We are not defining any constraint. That is the reason you will put any, you can avoid writing any of the value. Your command will work perfectly fine. But I know that for my table, all these fields are important to mention. And if I want all these fields as mandatory fields, so I need to specify it as well in the columns part. Make sense what I'm trying to convey? So what we should do? We should try to change the schema itself. So what I will do, I'll try to do one thing here. First of all, I'll drop my table, drop, this is the command, drop table, table name is employee. So what will happen? Your table will be deleted. Done. If I'll just now show you the table, if you will just now click on show tables, show tables, if you will just check it out, we don't have any table now, right? Because we have deleted our complete table of employee. So what we can do is we can add now one important constraint which I want to talk about here, which is not null. Wherever I feel that, I don't want my employee to fill a null value, I will make it as a constraint by the name of not null. So I will say it as not null. It is also not null. Similarly, I'll say my age of the employee is also not null. This is also not null. This is also not null. Is this part is clear? So the very first thing which we have discussed in today's class is the importance of something called as a not null constraint. Very, very important to understand. So just if you want, just document it somewhere so that you will not forget. What I'm saying is the very first thing is a not null constraint in SQL. Why is it important? So the simple reason of using not null constraint is at any point of time, I don't want the user to not enter any specific detail, which is very important as a founder of the company. I want the information of all the employees, right? So at that point of time, I will specify a constraint called as not null, so that at any point of time, if user will miss something, maybe first name, maybe last name, maybe age, maybe salary, maybe location, it will automatically give me the error. So far, so good. Shall we move ahead? Not null constraint to avoid any null values in a specific column. So in a specific column, if we don't want to write the null values, that's where we will have to use this not null constraint. So let's try to again run this command and we'll see what will happen. Now, let's try to run this. Running fine. Let's run this. Now, if I'll show you the tables, I think we have the table name employee because we have changed the schema. Now, if I'll just describe this employee table, you can see. Can you see the change now? By default, null value is no. In the initial case, when we will be having a normal schema where the not null value was not there, we will be having all the values of null as yes. But now we are having all the values of null as no. That is the important change which you have to understand. Now let's say I will again try to insert the data. Now this will work perfectly fine, right? Because here I'm inserting every domain. This will also work fine, right? Secondary code. If again I'll just try to show you the thing. Just now we have two records. One is by the name of Priya Bhatia. Another one is by the name of Sumedha Midha, right? Let's say I want to insert the last particular insert command now. In this case, if you remember, our first name was missing. We just have only the last name, if you remember. If I just run again this, last time, if you remember, it was working perfectly fine. But now let's try to see whether this will work perfectly fine or not. Can you see? Can you see? Error is coming up. If you will be able to observe, this error says field first name does not have a default value. So first name is not available, and because you have specified it's a not null constraint, you have to specify the first name. That is something which you have to understand always. So basically what will happen, if you will specify here the first name, okay, and in this case, let's say you will specify here the first name as maybe Alia, right? But so basically now if you will be able to run this command, it will run perfectly fine and you will be able to observe the employees you will be able to get now. Alia Bhatt, age 29, salary is this, location is Bangalore. Makes sense. Makes sense. Similarly, we can go for other records as well who are working in the company, right? So I can run all the insert commands. And now we can see we have 7 employees currently working in a company of Tech for All with Priya. So far, so good. Can you give me a thumbs up in the chat window so that we can move ahead? Everything is sorted till so far. So till so far, what we have observed? We have observed one important thing. That is, after creation of a table of employee, we have seen that how basically the insertion will happen, how we can insert a new data, insert a new data, or you can say new record inside a table, right? Inside a table. In our case, that table was employee table. Now, after that, we have seen the importance of a constraint, which is specifically not null constraint. And at what point of time we should apply this constraint pretty well. Done? This is what we have observed. Now, let's move ahead. Okay, many people have given me the confirmation. So far, so good. So I believe everything is going great till so far. Now, what is happening? Again, if we will look upon the schema. So we are trying to improvise this schema of employee table as much better as we can create. Okay. So that's why we will again focus on the schema of employee table. And just focus here. We will be having a first name, last name, age, salary, location. That's fine. But if let's say 7 people are working in my company, how basically I can differentiate them? By saying that anyone can have same first name, anyone can have same last name. For example, you must will see that okay, there are few girls who are having a name Priya, Bhatia. Age can also be same, salary can also be same, location can also be same. So the thing is that whenever we are creating any table, we should need something which distinguish that person from other people. And whatever columns we have created in this table, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns we have, there is no as such table, there is no as such column that is basically distinguishes the employees. So what do you think? If you are working in a company, which particular column or which particular value distinguish you from others? Or if you are in a college, which particular thing distinguish you from other students? Anyone who can answer me? What is the one thing which we are missing in this table of employee? Anyone who can guess it out? Let's see who will be able to give me as the very first answer out of the audience who are watching me live. What do you think? What is the one thing which is still missing in this employee table, although we have filled the constraints also? Very good. Very good. So Prabhutva was the first one. After that, I got another answer as well. So basically, if you will be able to observe, every employee will be distinguished by its employee ID. Do you agree with me? Every employee will be uniquely distinguished by its employee ID. So what we have to do, again, let's try to drop this table, because again, this table contains one important thing which is missing here, which is employee ID. So what I will do again, I will try to write it as emp ID. What is the type of this emp ID? Obviously, it's integer. Now, one more important thing which we have to understand. Because this emp ID is something which is clearly distinguishes all the employees, right? So this is something which we called as a primary key of a table. So there is another important concept which we are studying it today, which is primary key. At maximum number of times, this concept can be called, can be asked from you, and even when you're working in any of the company, please make sure every table, whatever table you will create, you will have to distinguish at least one column you should have, at least one. I'm saying there can be two, there can be three, but at least one column you should have which clearly distinguish that entries, that values with respect to other values. So that is something which we called as a primary key of a given table. For example, in the employee data, our EID or EMP ID is something which can act as a primary key, which uniquely distinguish the employees. Similarly, let's say in future, if you will create the students table who will be enrolled in my courses, in that case, student ID might be the primary key, right? If you are creating a table of courses, course ID will be a primary key. So, and one important thing, when you are saying that EMP ID is a primary key, by default, always remember, it is not null. It is following that not null constraint. So there is no need to specifically mention that it's a not null. If you are saying it's a primary key, by default, it is a not null. So what I'm saying is, in this case, what you will do is, you will do one simple thing. There are two ways mainly to specify a primary key for any given table. How basically you can do that? One way can be, you can define like this, primary key. Okay? Another way can be, what you can do, once you will just finish with the definition, at the very end say primary key, and in the brackets mention EMP ID. That's it. So in this way, you can define that, okay, this EMP ID is my primary key. So what will happen? Again, I think we have dropped the table employee. We can again recreate it. We can again see the description of this table. And now you will be able to see, you can see in the description part, a key which is specifically mentioned it as a primary key. By default, if you will be able to see, in this EMP ID, I have not defined this not null constraint, but still it automatically take the null value as no. Can you observe this? So always remember, whenever you are defining any particular column as a primary key in a table, it will automatically by default take it as a not null constraint. Make sure of this part. Okay? Now let's move ahead. So what we're supposed to do? We're supposed to add here the value as ID as 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Let's say I will add 1 here, 2 here, right? Then 3 here, maybe 4 here, 5 here, 6 here, and here, because we are mentioning the column name, so you need to mention EMP ID, comma, first name, and this is the 7th employee that we have. So this is the EID that we have. So you can start inserting the values step by step. Right? You can take it and just insert it. So now what is happening is, we will be having all the 7 employees available in our employee table again. So if we will try to retrieve all these employees, you will be able to see, now we will be having a EMP ID followed by the first name, last name, age, salary, location, and this EMP ID is something which uniquely distinguishes all the employees that we have in a given table. One more thing, one more interesting feature that we have in this particular table which you can utilize is something called as auto increment feature. So we have something called as auto increment feature. What will happen here, if you will be able to observe, I am manually defining the value of EMP ID as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, right? Rather than doing this, let's say I know that if, let's say, the first employee is Priya Bhatia, so EMP ID will start from 1 only, right? In this case, if you will be able to observe, Sumedha is the second employee, so her EMP ID will be 2 only. So what I can do is, I can, again, let's drop this table and let's try to show you the feature of this, auto increment feature. So what I can do, I can again recreate the table, which is an employee table, right? After that, if I'll just try to show you the description, can you see in the extra part, it is showing me as auto underscore increment. In the extra part, it is showing me auto underscore increment, which basically suggests to me that, This is working perfectly fine with respect to emp id. You don't need to define it. By default, it will start from 1 and will automatically increase. You don't need to manually write it. So if I just remove this 1, then 2, I'm removing this. Let's see what will happen. Here also I'm removing this, just like the way we have done previously. I think if we write semicolon, then maybe in one go we can write the commands, because I'm facing an issue. That's why I'm doing it one by one. Who asked the question? Prabhutva. Might be that is the thing. Let's try to see. Let me run it once first, whether it's running perfectly fine or not. No. So what is the issue? It is saying column count doesn't match value count at row 1. Okay. Description of employee. If I'll just run this, this is the thing. Insert into employee. Values. Priya is there, Bhatia is there. Emp ID is, I'm not defining it. It should work, right? Uh, if I'll just define it 1, in this case, and then if I'll just again run this, why this auto increment is not working? It should give me the automatic values of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. That's what I'm looking for. Let me check it out. Why it is happening? Anyone who figured it out? I hope you are doing on your platform as well. Just check it out, that whether you're getting the similar answer which I am getting. I think if I'll just run this, this will work fine. Let's see this. Huh. So basically what is happening here, by default, see, we will be having emp ID here also, right? So in this case, we need to specifically mention this because we are missing one column here, right? So that's why it is not working. I got the point. So basically we need to specify this point. Then it will work perfectly fine. So let me just write it here, everything. Now it should work. Let me just remove this. Okay? So let me just drop the table again and we'll show you everything again. So if I'll just show you the tables part, we don't have any table, right? Now let's try to see how this auto increment feature is working. We will try to create the table again, employee table. You can see we will be having an auto increment feature. So here we will be having a emp ID, right? If you are not mentioning this emp ID, that is what I told you, right? When you are using auto increment feature, you don't need to manually write emp ID as 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Automatically it will take. So I am just writing first name, I'm just writing last name, I'm just writing age, salary, and location. See now, if I'll show you the command, can you see automatically one is coming up without mentioning the value of emp ID as 1? Automatically this is coming up. This is the advantage of auto increment feature. Why it was not working in the previous case? Because we are not mentioning, right, which particular value we are defining inside the values. We are missing emp ID, right? So we need to specify, okay, I am mentioning first name, last name, age, salary, location. Take emp ID on your own as an auto increment feature. Okay? Is this clear now? Is that fine? Similarly, you can go for the same thing in the next case. Now everything will work fine. So here again, if I'll just show you the select command, in this case, you will be able to observe automatically 2 is coming up. Can you observe this? Without mentioning the emp ID as 2, automatically 2 is coming up. Similarly, if I'll go to the next in particular employee, you will be able to understand 3 is coming up. This is the important feature which we call as auto increment feature inside our table. Is that so far so good? Can you guys give me the confirmation in the chat window so that we can move ahead now? If everything is so far so good. Yes or no? So in this way, you can try to run all the commands you have. Here also, let's try to see. Now it is working fine. So let's try to see the employees. Now we will be having all the 7 employees. If you will be able to see with the help of auto increment feature, it is automatically incremented to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So far, so good. Done. I hope you are also doing with me practically, because these things will make a much better sense when you try to do it practically with the following up with me, whatever things I'm trying to do here. Because what usually happens is when we write the commands, we face some queries. Why I'm doing it live rather than going for the recorded videos? The only reason is that on the spot only, I want to say that, okay, I'm also writing the queries with you. We will face some trouble. We will face some error. We'll try to resolve it. At least we will use our brains, right? We will see that, okay, this is where we are going somewhere wrong, and at the same moment itself we will try to rectify it. When we do some mistake and then we will try to rectify it, or when your mentor usually does some mistake and try to rectify it, you remember more, right? Now you remember that, okay, what was the trouble we faced in the session, in the live session. If I'll do the recording, obviously editor will remove these things, right? Then there is no as such transparency happening. Shall we move ahead? It automatically always starts from 1 itself, auto increment. Okay? Shall we move ahead to the next important part? Now, we want to retrieve the data. This is what the today's session is all about, right? So we have seen that when we retrieve the data, we need to use something called as a select command. In the last session, I have told you, right? We are working with something called as a crude operations. What is the full form of crude? That also I have told you. So this is the episode number 2. I will also share the notes with you all, handwritten as well as the SQL queries file. So basically, we have talked about in the last class crude operations that we will discuss in our sessions, right? So creation part already we have discussed in our very first episode. Today we are discussing that how we can read or retrieve the data, right? Our part. Then in the upcoming sessions, we will discuss how we can update our data. And in the last part, we will discuss how we can delete any data points that we have. Now, when we're talking about reading the part, retrieving the data points, we are using something called as a select query. But let's say I will try to give you some question here. For example, I don't want to fetch the complete records available in the employee table. What I want is I just want to fetch only the first name and the last name. So again, I'm repeating the question. I'm saying I want to just select the first name and the last name in the table employees. I don't want the complete details like emp ID, first name, last name, age, salary, and the location. So what should I do here? Simple thing is I'll say select whatsoever column you want to fetch, whatsoever data you want to fetch. You can mention that. You can say first name I want to fetch. You can say last name I want to fetch. You can, yeah, that is what initially I want from the table name employee. So if you will just run this part, run this select query, can you see I will be able to get only the 2 columns. I will be able to retrieve only the 2 columns which I want from the table name employee. So far so good. Any doubts? So in this way, you can retrieve any of the column, whichever you want, by just mentioning the column name, whatever you want to, mention here. Is this fine? Shall we move ahead to the next important part? Let's say I want to look for the people who are having the salary more than or equal to 50,000. Now that is where something called as filter command will come into picture. Okay? I want to filter a record. I am saying I want to fetch the details of those people who are having a salary more than or equal to 50,000. So how we can do so? So that's where you will say select. I want to fetch first name and the last name of that person from the employee table of that person where. This where commands will give me a filtered value. I am saying where salary is either bigger than or equal to the number of 50,000. So if you will be able to observe in our table, if I'll just show you the table again, this is the table that we have. I think Sumedha is having a salary which is equal to 50,000. Priya is having a salary bigger than 50,000. Then Ankit is there. Then Alia is there. Let's try to run this query and see whether we are getting a correct answer or not. Can you see? The four records just now which we have mentioned, Priya, Sumedha, Ankit, and Alia, all those are coming up. So basically, what is happening here? We are trying to fetch the records based on the filter that we are applying here. Right? Is that correct? Is this fine? Let's say I want to sort this data of first name and last name by the salary. Whichever person is having a higher salary, I want that person to come up first, then the next one, then the next one, and the so on. So how basically this thing will happen? I want this condition to be true, means the person whose salary is bigger than 50,000, I want the first name and the last name. Plus, I want the data in a sorted fashion. I want the person who is having a maximum salary should be at the top, then followed by second maxima, third maxima, and fourth maxima. So how can I do so? That's where there exists something called as order by clause. So what you will do, you will say, I want order by via salary in a descending order. By default, when you apply this clause of order by, it will take the answer in the ascending order. But what we want is, we want that the name, or maybe you can also print a salary as well if you want, just to check it out. I want the first name, I want the last name, salary of a person. But I want the sorted fashion. So whichever person is having a higher salary, they will be at the top, followed by second maxima, third maxima, and fourth maxima. Let's run this. Let's see what we will be able to get. Can you see? Priya is having a maximum salary, then Ankit, then Sumedha and Ahlia, almost similar. So basically, this is where we will be able to easily sort out our data based on the order by clause. Is this part is clear to everyone? Is this query is clear to everyone? So let me write this query in the editor as well, and then we will look upon this in a more detail. Is this query is clear to everyone? What we have done here in this part? I have shown you the output as well, but is this clear what we have done here? So we have said that the people who are having a salary of 50,000, first of all, take them out. In that case, what I want to fetch only these three things. After that, at the very end, I want them to be sorted it down in the form of a descending order. By default, this order by default will give you the data in the ascending order. There is nothing you have to do. By default, it will give you the data in the ascending order only. Okay? So if you want the data in the descending order, then you have to mention DESC. So I can show you also this thing. Let's say I will remove this. I'll remove this. And now I'll run this query. What you can see, by default, we are getting the answer in the ascending order. 50, 50, then 70, then 1 lakh. But if you want vice versa, you want in a descending order, then you have to tap upon and you will be able to get the vice versa result. Is that fine now? Is that fine now? Clear? Now, if I'll ask you one interesting question, which is very, very widely asked in a lot of interviews, that if I'll give you this query, okay? If I'll give you this query, simple, can you tell me what is the order of execution of this query? What is the order of execution of this query? Anyone who can tell me? If you will run this query, what is the order of execution of this query? Meaning, which command will run first, followed by another, and so on. Anyone who can let me know? Anyone who can let me know? Anyone who can let me know which command will run first, followed by second, followed by third, and so on. Few answers are correct. So, can you see this answer? I think this is not exactly correct. The very first query is it's correct. From will work very first. So, what will happen? First of all, it will check it out from which particular table we have to fetch our data, right? From command will work at the very first side. This is correct. After that, what will happen? We will go to the where clause where the filter will happen. So at where, what is happening? There will be a filter which will happen. Okay? After that, once the filter will be done, what will happen? It will select only those particular things. Right? Select command will run. Okay. Once the select command will run, after that, what will happen? After that, what will happen? The last thing is order by. Because we have to arrange our data in the ascending or descending order. Okay? One more thing. Let's say I just want to display only the top two people who are taking a highest salary. So how you can do so? There is another command by the name of limit. Limit, for example, you are saying 2. So in this way, you are saying, I just want only the topmost 2 records to be displayed. So can you see? Only Priya Bhatia and Ankit name is coming up. So I'm just adding one more thing here in this command. Let's say I'm saying there is a limit constraint is also there. So you're mentioning here that limit 2, which will basically help you to limit your output. Let's say you want only 2 records. Let's say, again, it's a very widely asked interview question that display only those people name. Let's say top 2 highest paid people. Let's say top 2 elder people, top 2 younger people, right? Display the name of that. Just use limit and then 2. Now, in this case, if I'll say to you the same thing, what is the order of execution which can be asked from you? You will say after that limit command will work, which will basically give me whatever limit you have applied. Let's say you have applied two limit, so it will give you the two as two results, three results, four results, and so on. So this is how basically the complete order of execution will be done. Is this clear to everyone? Very, very important, whatever just now we have discussed. So this is how we can try to take any other data points and we will be able to retrieve it very effectively. Make sense? I think this is what I want to discuss in today's session as per how the select queries will work, how you can filter the data, how you can sort the data, how you will be able to apply a limit factor on top of that particular data point, and how we can do the insertion. All these things we have covered up in today's class. In the upcoming session, we will discuss that, let's say I want to update any particular command. For example, I want to change the last name of Alia. I want to change the age of Alia. Let's say employees is having an increment. I want to change their salary by 12% increment. So how we can change the values? So what we will do is in the CRED operations in the next particular session, next particular episode, we will work upon how we can do a update and delete command in the SQL. So in this way, within 3 episodes, we will try to cover up all the CRED operations, and then we will move ahead with respect to the next upcoming part. Okay? Is this so far so good? I think 50 minutes have already been passed. Now I'm open to take any questions if you have. Otherwise, we can wrap up today's class. I'll see you all very soon in the upcoming session where we will discuss the third episode where we will see how we can update our data points. Please make sure that you will try to store whatever things we are covering up here in your SQL queries file, because whatever things we will do in top of this, we will do in top of this particular file only, right? I'll not start from scratch. Today also, if you will be able to observe, whatever things we have already done in the very first session, for example, creation of a database, creation of a table, I didn't done it again, right? I have just start from there itself, right? Uh, will we be doing a project? Definitely, yes. We will do a project as well. Once you will be able to have a good expertise over the commands, over the concepts. Sorry, light is not there. It's completely fine. I hope my audio is clear. So once we will be able to, complete all these concepts part, all the queries part, all the CRUD operations, how we can do that, once you will be able to have a good conceptual understanding of SQL, after that maybe we can move ahead with respect to the further concepts, and we will try to do the project as well, end to end one project, so that you will be able to get an idea that how in industry people are using these queries, right, to fetch any data. Make sense? There are a few people who are mailing me regarding the MySQL Workbench installation. They're facing some trouble. See, please make sure that you are trying to uninstall the things. If you are facing any sort of a trouble in between, SQL is not working fine. It means that there must be installation issue which you have done in between of the steps. So please make sure that you will try to uh, delete all the files whatever you have, and after that maybe you can try to um, reinstall everything and work it out. Okay, my one screen is not working. Okay, any other question anyone is having? Am I audible? Am I audible? Am I audible now? Abhi, am I audible? Not audible? Hello. Okay, so guys, let's wrap up the today's session. I think whatever things I have to discuss, I have already discussed. Please do share this video with each and everyone, and I'll see you all very soon in the upcoming live. Okay, bye bye and see ya.